Hi everyone, I am excited to be here. Jason called me and said, hey, would you mind coming and doing this? And I'm like, well, Heather came to Utah State, so I guess I can come here. That would be fair, right? No, I would have been good. But he asked me to talk about our new bachelor's program that we have coming online. We'll start piloting courses next fall, but then the full program should be online the next fall. So we're pretty excited about it. But I was like, why would they be excited about our new bachelor's program? You guys are all graduate students. Why would you? But the process that we've gone through to create this program is very human-centered design oriented, and it is a human-centered design type program. Many of the things that we're teaching will encourage those principles and teach our students about those principles so that they can enter the job field. So I thought maybe that would be more interesting to you, is if I talked a little bit more about that and explained what the process was that we went through, so you can kind of see what maybe a human-centered design program might look like. Well, at least our version of what we think human-centered design is. So, I was hoping you could see that. Hope I can see it from here. Let's talk for a minute about what great human-centered design looks like. So, great design is based on observed human need. That seems so simple, doesn't it? It seems so simple that, of course, the first thing we would do if we wanted to design something, whether it's a program or a learning object or a learning program or whatever it is, that we would think about what our consumers would want and what their needs are. But unfortunately, in my experience, I've spent, 100 years now in corporate before I came to Utah State last spring, and believe me, this does not happen often enough. Human-centered design is not implemented in how we design the things that we produce. So that's number one. Great design comes from understanding people's behaviors, thoughts, and emotions. It has a lot of empathy. So empathy is the number one thing with human-centered design, is trying to understand your users, your consumers, whatever it is, whoever's going to be using or taking advantage of whatever you're designing. You've got to have empathy for their needs, for what they go through, for how they go through it. And true empathy isn't just, oh yeah, I feel sorry for you. True empathy is, let me get down in the trenches a little bit and find out what it's like to be you, and really find out what your needs are. So good design is based on those things. It also comes from a desire to create real outcomes. We don't just create just to create. Human-centered design, there's just no reason to do that. You go through a lot of work to be empathetic and to get down in the trenches and to figure out what your users or whatever may need. You really need to create something that will create great outcomes. And then the last one, great design is iterative, and we really found that with this program. We've been working on this program for over 2 years, just trying to get the courses decided, what courses we would teach, who is going to be taking these courses, so many things. So we'll talk about that. Oh, and I went too fast. Okay. People ask us, why create a new bachelor's program? How many of you know of any bachelor's programs in our field? Yeah, there's how many?
There's just a couple, I think. Isn't there one in Illinois?
Yeah, I think it's like 2, 3, 4, something like that.
Yeah, very few, right? Very few, very few bachelor's programs in our field. And we're like, people have said, why would you do a bachelor's program? That doesn't even make sense. It should be a master's program. Well, our dean and our college president came to us and said, you are the only program on campus that does not have a bachelor's degree. Guess what? You will. So that was a good reason, but go ahead.
Well, I was just wondering, like, the focus on user-centered design, whereas your program is, your graduate program is more, maybe more narrow, I don't know.
Oh, it is.
Because it's learning sciences and instructional
Technology, yeah.
technology.
Yeah.
How did you decide to kind of, or why did you decide to broaden out, and will you overlap with other design undergraduate programs at the university? Like here we have, I don't know, Jason, we have like 3 different design programs. We have lots of different ones.
Yeah.
So.
We do overlap, and I'll explain that. We also decided to make this a very interdisciplinary degree, and you'll see that when you see the courses that we're going to be teaching. And we are involving other departments on campus within our emphasis areas for this. So I'll show you how that will work. And it is kind of an interesting thought. We didn't originally decide when we said, okay, we're going to do a bachelor's degree. We didn't originally decide to go human-centered. We actually were just trying to make it a baby instructional development, more of a developer role. But that was part of the iteration. You know, and as we gathered more data, we realized that's not necessarily what we should do. So let's talk about that. First, we had to look at who are we designing this for? Who do you think? Who do you think we're designing this program for?
Employers?
Very good. Most people would say students, right? But if you were going to ask students right now, would they know what this program should look like? How many students coming, especially this is a bachelor's degree, how many students coming directly out of high school would know exactly what this type of program should look like? Now they may say, I want to take this class and I want to take this class and I want to do this and I want to do this. But how many of them are clued in enough to what employers need to be able to decide, okay, these are the skills that you would need. So although we will be serving students, we are also serving the corporate environment as well. Now these are bachelor students. So in our master's degree and our graduate program, many of our students come from education. I think you guys probably have that same thing here, right? How many of you have undergrad degrees in education?
Very few of us.
Yeah, so maybe not as many. We have quite a few in our program. So a lot of our master's degree students go back into education and use their degrees that way. But for this bachelor's degree, that was not going to happen. So even though we're located in the College of Ed and other services, what other services? Human services. I've only been there since April. I can say that. I won't say that I have 3 degrees from just say, but made me lose my train of thought right there. You know, this degree, they would not be going back to education. They wouldn't have teaching degrees. So we knew we had to look at what jobs were out there that they would be filling. So that's some of the stuff we had to understand. So this is the data we gathered. First, I think, let me just see if I skipped one. Oh, okay. One of the first things we did is we actually talked to our alumni, which is kind of an interesting thing because our alumni, probably just like yours, are scattered all over the world. They have all kinds of jobs. They're doing stuff that they did, you know, we wouldn't even have thought they would be doing at this point. And so we talked to them and we said, okay, if you had it to do over again, what skills do you wish you would have come out of college with? And so they gave us those skills. We translated those into some courses, what that might look like. And then we took it back to them and said, what do you think about this? And many of them said, yeah, this is good, but this would be better. And what about this? So we got quite a bit of input from them, especially when we were looking at doing our baby ID program, because that's really, what they were looking at. But we also added corporate partners. So we talked to so many corporate partners and said, look, tell us what jobs you're struggling to fill. Well, what's number 1 in Utah? What's the hardest job to fill? Anybody know? computer programmers, right? If you're a computer programmer right now, you would have a job yesterday and a new one tomorrow, making more money than you ever thought you could. You don't even have to have a college degree to do it. So that's really the number one, and it's the number one need. But what we're finding is, although coders are in high demand, there is a group of employees that are between coders and the consumer. And there are several jobs that are involved there. They don't need to know how to code, but they do need to know graphic design, UX, UI, interactions, data analysis, how people think, how people learn, how to manage projects. It's kind of an eclectic group of skills, right? But they're that in-between job that need to be able to communicate with the coders, but also understand the needs of those they're serving. Hence the human-centered design focus. It's becoming a super critical area for us because what's happening is the people who are taking those jobs are not coders, because coders already make more money than these people do. And if you're a coder, you usually have a specific set of skills and a specific way you like to work. Coders are just a little different personality. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all. It's just the way they like to work. They don't necessarily like to be out interfacing with the customers and being empathetic and being, they want to do their thing. Just let me do my thing and don't bug me. Put me in an office and then let me play video games on the side. So, that is a whole environment for them. They don't want to deal with the clients. And so the people that are taking these jobs do not have the basic design skills. They don't know how to manage projects. They don't necessarily understand anything about user interaction and user design. They don't understand how to design anything. They don't understand the human-centered or the design thinking concepts. So it's a huge problem right now. And with the help of our corporate partners, we were able to identify this gap and see how we would fit into it. Because when we started looking at it, we're like, we already teach a lot of these types of classes. We already, understand graphic design theory. We already understand human-centered design. We already design thinking. We already teach many of our multimedia courses that they wanted them to have, graphic design. We already taught project management. There were already so many pieces that we already did that we were like, this isn't that far of a switch for us. In fact, there's nobody else on campus or anywhere that we know of that gets this eclectic about the program. So yes, you could go take a class here, or you could go take a class here, or go take a class here. If you were lucky enough to figure out what those courses are that you would need to take to get the skills that you need. So, go ahead.
Does Utah State,
does Utah State have like a graphic design undergraduate, or do they have like a UX design undergraduate? So they don't have UX design,
Nope.
but they have
Graphic design.
Okay. Do they have other design undergraduate programs in engineering or in the business
They have a
school?
product design. So product design, and it is actually probably the closest to us. And it's in our outdoor rec program. So outdoor product design is what it is.
yeah, I think it's called experience design here at UAU.
So will you be, you said it's interdisciplinary, will you be like sharing courses with those programs?
Yep, we will.
Cool.
We will. So, corporate partners, and then we went, and this is an odd one, and people have asked me why I did this, but we started perusing job announcements. So we went to Indeed and LinkedIn and everything. We went to everything that was even close. We looked at everything we could find especially the high need areas. And then we started making a list of all the skills that were needed in those jobs. You know what? So many times they were about the same, no matter what the job was. And I'll show you what some of those jobs were in a minute. But it helped a ton. But what we also saw was that there are some emerging areas as well. So we have emerging jobs in AR, VR, and AI, which we know, that's been coming for 10 years, but we're actually seeing job requests for the first time. People who are actually ready to hire people who have those types of skills, some additional skills. So it's like we were ready to drop some of our multimedia stuff until we saw what the jobs were and said, no, we need to keep some of those skills as well. So it helped us identify the skills. It kind of gave us a visual understanding of what the employment gaps were, but also the jobs that people would be able to get once they graduated with these skills. And something that was really important was it showed us that a bachelor's degree was enough. 70%, even in instructional development, 70% of the jobs that we found only asked for a bachelor's degree, which was interesting to me about the instructional design jobs and development jobs, because I'm like, well, since there aren't bachelor's degrees in this, somebody just doesn't know anything about the field. But we were surprised. In fact, our faculty said to me, oh, Kristy, you have to have a master's degree. And I said, oh, let me show you the data. And they were surprised. So that was interesting to us. And then we took the Department of Workforce Service reports. So they do reports. I think they have, like 500 people that just gather data and do reports. Department of Workforce Services. I don't know if they have so many reports, but we pulled some of the reports on emerging fields, where the jobs are, what the growth percentage is, especially in Utah, and what we should expect for the future. And that helped, really, it just told us what we had already found. It just cemented some of those same things. We could see what the jobs were, we could see what the skills were, we could see what was needed. So that was super helpful. And then the last thing, and I'm sure there's other stuff that I just forgot to add in data that we gathered, but we really had to take a look at what our student demographics are. We realized that these students would be younger than the students that we've served in the past. For those of you who don't know, our master's program right now is, we have online and face-to-face, but 70% of our students are online. And our online is growing much faster. Even our face-to-face students are opting to take online classes, at least half of them. And so we know that that's an issue. Sorry, that might be a hot spot. We know that that's an issue. We've had our online masters, our online MA program for over 10 years, just short of 10 years. I helped, when I was getting my PhD there, I helped design that master's program then. And so we instituted it while I was there. And then I taught for several years as an adjunct after I left. But this is something that has been kind of a work in progress. It's taken us a long time to get to where we feel comfortable with delivering a program online, and that we feel like we can get the learning outcomes that we expect. But what we've realized is that because many students, not just graduate degree, but even in bachelor's programs, need to work, that they're choosing educational opportunities based on whether they can keep their jobs and continue to work, which means an online asynchronous program is the only way that we can serve them and serve those needs. So when we're deciding, okay, are we going to make this a online or a face-to-face, what we do know is that we don't want to do both of them at the same time. This is a huge undertaking for us, and it's a lot of courses. And trying to do both with our current faculty, even if we add 2 faculty, which is what we're hoping for, not going to cut it. So we had to choose. And because of our student demographics and the way we're seeing the trends and talking with them, we chose to do an online program. We may, we have a ton of interest even on campus with students who have not declared majors yet or who have associate's degrees and are looking for something. So maybe in the future we'll do a on-campus, and I'd love to see that. I just don't think that'll be for a couple more years till we get this one going, but yes.
I'm just wondering how you're thinking about, because we've thought about these things for a long time. Utah State may be a little more agile than BYU in terms of creating majors, but what are your thoughts in terms of how these undergraduates with bachelor's degrees will compete with your master's students? Because one of the things that we've realized is a master's degree is about, for us it's 37 credits, but you actually get about 60 credits out of the 120 credits for a bachelor's degree in a domain, so they actually could have more coursework within the domain than a master's student could. So do you see these bachelor students actually competing with the master's students for jobs?
Oh yeah, they will compete for jobs, but I'll tell you what we've been super careful, and that's we didn't want to cannibalize our master's program. We have a great master's program, and so we didn't want to do that. So we're not teaching, like if we're teaching introductory classes in the bachelor's, they are not, it's not all the information we're going to teach in the master's. We're not teaching them together. You know how sometimes you'll cross-list them? We're not doing that, except for a couple of tools classes that we will cross-list. But for the most part, they will actually get a more advanced degree now in the master's program than they had before. Because before, without the bachelor's, we had to start at the very beginning. But now our students that are going to come into the master's program, and we haven't been able to nail this down yet, but we're hoping to cut off some of the credits that are required for the master's. I mean, the university requires a certain number of credits for a master's degree. Whatever the minimum is, we can actually work the program into. So
will you require a bachelor's in the field before?
No.
So you may end up with students in your master's program who...
It will be a little more challenging than it would have been otherwise. But what I really think will happen is I think one of the big reasons we wanted to do this was for a funnel for our master's program. So and those students will get first dibs into the master's program. So it may just happen that if you didn't get a bachelor's, you wouldn't get in. It could just happen that way. Who knows?
Depends on that.
Yeah, it really depends on a lot of things.
So given that you did all this research that said that most of the jobs only require bachelor's degrees, do you think there'll still be motivation for that pipeline, for them to keep going
And
into
that
the
is
master's?
the concern, right? What we've tried to do with the master's degree is make this, it is much more vertical in instructional design and development and learning sciences. That research side of things, it is more vertical, but it will also prepare them better to be the managers and the directors of the programs, especially if they have the bachelor's degree. So that's our hope, is that there is a natural progression, that people who do get a master's degree have the opportunity to get those types of jobs, maybe not right out of the gate, but hopefully within a short period of time. We're actually seeing that with our master's students now, that they're entering the field usually as developers, instructional developers, just developing content. But then because they have a master's degree, they're moving into the management positions faster than people who don't, who either got a certificate somewhere or just homegrown, they learned it in the field. So we're already seeing that, and because of that, we're trying to add some additional content like project management to our courses to give them that added management side, and kind of there's a little more communication skills and some stuff like that. So we'll continue to do that. But those are definitely things we've thought about. We don't want to end up with no master's program, a huge batch. That's never been the idea because we have such a great research program at Utah State with master's and PhD. We need those students, and we want to be able to serve the research side of the field as well. Okay. So we also had to talk to our faculty. Now, I don't know how it is here, but trying to get a faculty of 12 to all agree on one thing is like momentous, and we did. That is like the biggest miracle of my life, I think. We worked really hard to include them and to give them the data and to have them help us. And this is where the iterative part of this really came. We would present them with what we thought was a good plan, and they would say, well, how about if we do something different? And it was very challenging, I will say that, because everybody has their pet things, right? They have their pet things they want to teach, they have their pet things they want to do research on, and if it doesn't fit, then they don't want it as part of the program there. And so we really had to take their experience and the things that they had a desire to teach and their research capabilities into account. It really was part of the process. We had to do it or we were never going to get them all to agree. And in the end, they unanimously agreed on the courses that we decided to teach. So I'll show you those in a minute, but go ahead.
So, sorry, I've got tons of questions.
No, I love it. Keep
Because we've been
asking.
thinking about this too, so.
We're gonna start giving you.
I'm just
a call.
wondering, with two new FTE, there's no way that you can do this
Right.
with two new FTE without giving up something or having a lot of adjuncts that
Yep.
are.
We will have
supportive,
adjuncts
so.
and graduate students teaching quite a few of those courses. And we know that. As the program grows and we can add faculty, and when we do add faculty, they will be teaching and research faculty still. So they'll still only have half load of teaching, which is what, 4 courses a semester. But I'll also show you, I think we have 12 new courses in the program, and then the rest of the courses are actually taught somewhere else on campus. So,
That's the interdisciplinary part, right?
well, it's part of it, yes, but I'll show you. So last thing we had to take into consideration was Utah State's mission. We are a little bit different. Utah State's a land grant institution. I don't even know if I understand what that means, but we have presence in every single county in the state. And we have goals to make sure that we provide as much training as we can to every one of those counties. By doing this as an online program, we open that up significantly. And we also have the desire to work with technical colleges. One of the problems we have in the state right now is we have all these technical colleges that have these great programs like graphic design or IT tech or even some coding. There are coding boot camps, there are coding technical certifications and stuff like that. But these students don't really have a place to go once they get those. So they go into the job field, but they can move with experience, but they can't gain higher education and therefore don't really progress. So what we've done is we've been working with our technical colleges around the state to bring in some of those certificate programs. They're like 900 credits into the associate's degree. It'll count as their emphasis, 30 credits of emphasis. So it gives them half of, and that is not done within our department, AIS, whatever AIS is. All those acronyms I'm trying to remember. Something.
Information system.
AIS, it's our online,
Instructional system.
no, it's not a department. It is our online, know, it's like the fact center.
Yeah, is that what it was? It used to be the fact
It
center?
used to be the fact center, so,
it's
but
like our-
it's grown, whatever. Anyway, we're working with them on that. So that was one of the things that we wanted to do. We wanted to create a stackable credential. So we wanted students to be able to go there, then be able to get their associates, then be able to get their bachelor's, then be able to move into a graduate degree if they wanted to. And we didn't want a lot of wasted credits in there. We wanted them to be able to do it. What do you guys notice about your master's degree? Because it's a master's degree, what kind of students are you getting? Like, okay, what disciplines are they coming from?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, right? That's part of the beauty of the master's degree in instructional development. Everybody brings their own knowledge, their own, set of skills and knowledge to instructional development and learning sciences, and then they can go out from there in the field and teach and develop instruction. Well, we just figured out a way that we can do that within the undergraduate. It gives them an emphasis area, that they still have some subject matter expertise. They can still kind of migrate to what they enjoy, but we'll still give them the other skills that they need as well. So it's something that we really thought would be cool. So these are the things that we found. And we found a ton of other stuff, but we've already kind of talked about these. We needed something that was cross-disciplinary.
We actually have a couple of questions.
Oh, good.
Window.
Ask
Is
away.
that okay? Okay, so in the chat window, we've got a couple of questions. Does the input from all these sources, students, faculty, employees, et cetera, ever conflict? And if so, how do you resolve the differing opinions?
Okay, all this data conflicts all the time. You guys know that with anything. Anytime you're gathering a lot of data from a lot of different sources, you're going to conflict. So really, we look at it and say, okay, what are our outliers? Where are we the same in every source? What kind of data are we finding from this source that is the same in this source, that's the same in this source? And that is what we really needed to find out anyway, right? Was what the commonalities were, what that should look like. So yes, these things always conflict. And the only really, for us, the only people that had to agree were our faculty at this point. Beyond that, our corporate sponsors, we want them to agree, and they have wholeheartedly endorsed what we've done. Part of it because they got to help design it, I'm sure. And beyond that, it's just the entities that have to approve our bachelor's program. So there are things that we have to do. We have to stick with certain guidelines, of course, that the university has and the state has. But as long as we keep within those guidelines, then they have to agree that this is a good program. It's not an approved program yet. But it's been approved by most of our Utah State entities. We have one left to go, and that shouldn't be a problem. And then it goes to this Board of Regents, which usually if it makes it that far without too much hoopla, then you're good to go. So we're not suspecting we'll have a problem there. But yes, there are problems and challenges. We always try and listen to any input. If people are saying, okay, why are you teaching this? You've got to prove it to me. You've got to show, well, we obviously haven't done a good job. We need to make sure that we present those, our thoughts to them. We can't just say, well, we just feel like this is important. Well, why do you feel like it's important? We had to have data to back up every decision that we made, so that we weren't just doing what we thought would be great. And to be honest, the program changed a ton from what we originally thought it should look like and what we originally took to our alumni and took from our alumni. It changed quite a bit. And then we had to go back to those sources and say, okay, this has changed. What do you think about this? And get their feedback again. So it was very iterative, and it's the only way that's going to happen. But we pushed hard. We had some deadlines that we set for ourselves, and so we just made it happen. Kind of challenging.
I do have another follow-up
yes,
question,
go
if
ahead.
that's okay. Let's see, why not just a technical certificate? Why a whole bachelor's degree? Might it serve equally or more students currently in ID-like positions?
Good question. we didn't have the option to do certificate programs, we can, and we actually are going to offer some certificates within the bachelor's program later. We have to go through the same process that we have to go through for our full bachelor's program. But that was not our option from our dean and from our president, our university president. So we didn't, I mean, yes, we are going to offer some project management, maybe even design thinking, some things like that, some certifications, but you have to go through the same process. You have to do a full R401, get it approved by everyone. So we decided we're gonna do this first. We'll come back and deal with the certificates later. But it's a good point, and we did have some people say, you know, why don't you do that? But our corporate sponsors actually did not want to see us do certificate programs. They wanted to see us do a full bachelor's degree, and one of them, Discover Card, actually pays for all of their employees to go to school, and they wanted a bachelor's program in this. So, you know, it's one of their perks that they offer. They will do certificate programs for them, but they really wanted them to have a path.
So they're hiring a lot of people who don't have their bachelor's already.
Yes, in their customer service department. So imagine how many of these companies around here, especially that have call centers or customer service departments. They're hiring uneducated and they can't keep them. So one of the big perks that they're offering right now is to pay for their education. And there's just a few of them that are doing it, but it's going to grow because it's what they're starting to do, which is wonderful. I'd much rather see them do that than some of the other perks that they do. Peanut butter sandwiches in the lunchroom, you know, whatever. But there is a huge need, especially as these companies are trying to keep, you know, to educate these workers and educate them for positions that are available now, but also positions that will be available in the future, which is something that we tried to do with this program. So, all right, ta-da. Here are the current additional classes that we're going to be teaching, and they're kind of fun. The name of the program is Technology, Design, and Interaction, so it's not called Human-Centered Design. But I'm not sure the title will stay. We've been batting this one around. This one has been harder than deciding on all the courses, trying to decide what to name. So there is a possibility it'll change, but we're teaching a design perspectives and processes. This is very much design thinking. Intro to Information and Media Literacy. Think about these courses and where the information would be used right now in the workforce. Computational thinking, so understanding about programming. It isn't a programming class, but it helps give you the language you need to be able to communicate with programmers. Some of the, you would understand some of the processes involved in programming. Information design for people, how people learn and how people think, really. It's the psychology of it all. Video, audio design and production, graphic design and production, internet development, project management, data viz and analysis, measuring, learning and performance, and technical and professional communication. So is that eclectic enough? It's pretty interdisciplinary. And these are the courses that are taught, except for the technical and professional communication course, all of these are actually taught as core classes in the program. On top of that, how it becomes even more interdisciplinary is we require 2 emphasis areas. You get to choose. You can take those classes online or face-to-face if you want. So people who want more graphic design can go take classes in the graphic design program. People who want more business classes can go take classes there. People who want, I'm trying to remember all of the
So you've decided the emphases, or can they create their own emphases?
We have structured some online emphases from online classes that are already taught at USU, but anyone can come in and create their own emphases with their advisor. So especially if they're on campus and they can take classes on campus, that's easier for them. Not every class at USU is taught online, and so we kind of had to find some of those, define some emphasis areas already. But one of those is actually within our own department, which is multimedia design. So even though we have some multimedia classes here, they can go and get a full multimedia emphasis and go much deeper than this as well. Also our game design, so esports, we have a new esports program in our department. So if they want to do game design and that's the emphasis, they can take enough courses and we will create actually a couple more courses in the game design area for them to take. So some of those will, be, a couple of those emphasis areas are still within our program, but the rest are somewhere else. And they can bring them in from another university as well. So if they went somewhere else and now they want to come into our program, but they have a bunch of, courses that they've already taken. In fact, that we have somebody right now we're working with that's like, I want in this program. I'm like, it's not even a program yet. He's like, what do I do? So we looked at what he's taken, and he'll have all of his emphasis courses taken and ready to start our pilot classes in the fall because he's already kind of had a major that he's changed. I have 5 minutes, great.
Are
Okay.
these all 3 credit classes?
Yes. Okay, here's some of the jobs. So user experience, and I will tell you, many master's students from our program actually are already doing a lot of these jobs. So it's kind of interesting how it still kind of ties back in. It's not completely, off the path. It's still on path. So user experience, agile project management, data analysts, online training and development, program management, technical writing, content development, multimedia, game designers, and product designers and developers. I know there are more, but these are the types of jobs we're preparing them for, which pretty out there. So this is what we learned about human-centered design. Be willing to change your mind. That iterative process really means you're going to iterate. It doesn't mean we're going to stick to what we really like and not look at the data. Don't be surprised at the results. We actually were a little surprised at what we came up with from the data. Some things weren't a surprise, but some things really were. And iteration is good. A lot of data is helpful, but it's also challenging. Sometimes we started to get to where we were way out. We were like, wait, okay, let's make sure we bring everything back within certain confines. We still had to teach these courses. And everyone will not agree, so whoever asked that question. But the final version can be amazing. And I think what we have and what we've come up with is pretty exciting. We already have a list this long of students who want in the program, and it's not even approved yet. But it's an exciting thing. So I know we don't have much time, but I wanted to ask you guys, how can you apply human-centered design to other projects? What are some things you're doing that you could apply some of these same principles here?
Well, I'm just thinking of like research. I've done it. I think sometimes in the university we can just focus on what we want to learn, but we need to collaborate with people like in research partnerships or if we want to learn about what's going on in K-12, we have to work with K-12 teachers and not just do our own thing.
Right, and we see this all the time where people just say, oh, I know what they want. They don't even ask, right? They don't even involve the K-12 teachers or whoever it is in the decisions. I saw this in corporate so often. They would design products without ever asking the customer, or make changes to it without even asking, or doing any user experience, user interface test or anything. And it was crazy. And I'd go, well, why don't you ask them if they like it? Oh, that takes too much time. Oh, crazy. Somebody else have a question?
Yeah. Hearing about your background and your experience and what did you do to go and be empathetic for this bachelor development, I was fascinated to see, of course, you're going to go to the context where these students will eventually be.
Yeah.
You want to be empathetic to their final product, who they are going to be, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, in my schooling, all that I'm doing, I've chosen to gear my education around a product that I want to have people use so that they too can eventually become a certain final product themselves. And so as I think about what my research is going to eventually help me provide a basis for in a future company, of course I need to make sure then that I'm being empathetic to my future users by first looking at, well, what is the final product that they themselves are going to be, and then base my product off of helping them get there.
Yeah,
So-
exactly right, and very good. And if you can start thinking that now, it makes it so much easier
Yeah.
than trying to backtrack.
I have one more question in the chat,
Okay.
if that's okay. We have someone participating online who is very curious about when job postings are going to be available for teachers in this new program, and if you would be considering hiring out of the state of Utah.
Actually, some of our adjunct teachers could teach from outside the state. And so, whether we'll post those jobs, you know, whether it's actually posted or if we'll just come here and say, okay, do you guys have any instructors that can teach these classes? My bet is it'll probably be next summer because we're gonna start piloting next year. Our professors actually get first dibs on these classes.
Mm.
So they get additional monies to help develop these courses, and so they get first dibs on them. And we're hoping that they will do the initial development, but then likely will turn back over those courses once they're developed to adjuncts. Not always, but.
Who will teach the classes that they're teaching now when they move to teach those?
And it is going to be a challenge. We are hiring 2 new faculty members right now. And so
Teaching faculty?
they will be research faculty, but they'll have 4 courses a year, 4 course load. So that'll be 8 of our courses.
Are you teaching, but you're not just teaching these courses just once a year, are you? Each of these courses?
The first year we will, but then after, the first 2 years they'll only be taught once, but then after that they will be taught, let me think how the rotation goes, I'm trying to remember. Every course will be taught once a year, but it's a 2-year program. So you could enter it at any point, but you would have to take it either fall or spring. And right now we won't have a summer semester for that program. We don't have summer semester instructors, but me. And I'm not going to teach them all.
So let's thank Kristy for coming. If you guys have more questions and want to talk to her, you can do that while you're eating soup.